So in Joshua chapter 4, verse 10, it says, "So the priests who bore the ark stood in the midst of the Jordan until everything was finished that the Lord had commanded Joshua to speak to the people, according to all that Moses had commanded Joshua. And the people hurried," because they're probably wondering, how long is the water going to stay back? "And the people hurried and crossed over. And then it came to pass, when all the people had completely crossed over, that the ark of the Lord and the priests crossed over in the presence of the people. And the men of Reuben, the men of Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh crossed over armed before the children of Israel, as Moses had spoken to them. About 40,000 prepared for war crossed over before the Lord for battle to the plains of Jericho." Now, by the way, you remember that there, again, are 12 tribes to Israel. But 2.5 of these tribes requested that their land allotment be on the eastern side of the Jordan River, which today on a map is Jordan. And Moses agreed to this. But Joshua instructed them, the tribes of Reuben, the tribe of Gad, and half of the tribe of Manasseh, "You guys can stay over here on the eastern side of the Jordan River. That's fine. But you have to help your brothers and sisters when they go into the promised land to defeat the people that are there ahead of them. So you have to at least go over and fight for them. And then after they have secured the land, you can go back over to the eastern side of the Jordan River and you can live there." And so the tribes of Reuben, the tribe of Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh went over. They crossed over, and it tells us there were 40,000 between those 2.5 tribes. There were 40,000 fighting men who were armed for battle. They cross over with their brothers and sisters as they enter now into the promised land, into the land of Israel. And it says in verse 14 that on that day the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and they feared him as they had feared Moses all the days of his life. Again, consider, this has got to be a difficult thing for Joshua because Moses was a prominent leader. He was known and seen, and the Bible says that Moses was a prophet of God. And those are some big sandals to fill. If you come along after Moses, not so easy to get the respect of the people that they had for Moses. This is a hard act to follow, if you will. But yet Joshua was obedient. He followed in Moses' footsteps. God raised up Joshua to be the one to actually take the people into the promised land. And just as Moses had taken the people led by God out of slavery in Egypt, crossing the Red Sea, now it was Joshua's turn. And when the waters parted of the Jordan River and Joshua takes over the Israelites into the promised land, and remember, these people had never stepped foot in the promised land before. Only their ancestors had. For the last 400 years, these people have been slaves in Egypt. So this generation that comes out of Egypt dies in the wilderness. Their children actually enter the promised land, and these folks had never been there before. So when they step foot into the promised land, a fulfillment of God's promise, then God turns their hearts with respect to Joshua, and in that day, God exalted Joshua in their sight, and they feared him. They had a healthy fear. It's a respect that they had for Joshua. Boy, he's our leader. He's actually delivered. He actually took us into the promised land, and so they exalted him. They respected him. They feared him in that day. And verse 15 says, "And then the Lord spoke to Joshua, saying, Command the priests who bear the ark of the testimony to come up from the Jordan. And Joshua therefore commanded the priests, saying, Come up from the Jordan. And it came to pass, when the priests who bore the ark of the covenant of the Lord had come from the midst of the Jordan, and the soles of the priests' feet touched the dry land, that the waters of the Jordan returned to their place and overflowed all its banks as before." What a sight that must have been. To see God roll back the water because the priests touched the water with their feet in obedience to what God had said. And then they're standing now safely on the western bank of the Jordan River. And they're looking back now, and the priests then come out from the Jordan onto the shoreline there, and then God rolls the water back. What a sight to behold here.